That was, and you know what's coming here. That was a delectable medley of footballing splendour. That was a classic. That was a beautiful, pure, unadulterated game of football, and I absolutely loved it. I think both Arsenal and Newcastle United can be very proud with their performance. I think Arsenal will obviously feel incredibly frustrated, and there was an underbelly. There was a weak vulnerability to that Arsenal team that is a concern for Mikel Arteta and the Arsenal faithful. For Newcastle United, a statement victory. It was huge. It was impassioned. It was bold. It was daring. It was wonderful. And as a neutral watching that game, it was a joy to behold. The only place to start, and I am not going to sit on the fence here, the goal. People want to know, was it a goal? There's lots of conjecture. There's lots of conversations. Lots of people are asking, do you think the goal should have stood? There were a myriad of reasons as to why that goal could have potentially been ruled out. Let me just stop everybody in their tracks. I can tell you definitively, I have conducted an experiment. I have given it the due diligence that it deserves. Now, trust me on this. The goal is a goal. That goal is a goal. It is a beautiful, wonderful goal. There is no such thing as a bad goal, but that goal, in its raw ugliness, in its raw beauty, the fact that it's so controversial, it's barbaric, it's pugnacious, but it was perfect. It was a lovely goal to score. It was a goal to win a game of football in that setting. When the game is so combative, so to and fro, so aggressive, so much on the line, so much jeopardy, so much passion, sometimes you need to just roll your sleeves up and force the ball into the back of the net. It's not about system. It's not about XG. It's not about possession stats. It's not about how many forward passes did Joe Linton make. It's about fight. It's about tenacity. It's about heart. It's about spirit. It's about desire. And Newcastle United had it in bucket loads. And I'll tell you what, that goal, when it was being studied, it was a heartbreaker, actually, because I think it diluted the passion at St. James's Park a touch. You know, that spontaneity. Imagine if that goal had hit the back of the net and there was no jeopardy as to whether it would stand. The roof would have blown off the Gallagate. But because there were many potential reasons to rule it out, and because the VAR team at Stockley Park decided to explore every single possible angle to somehow rule that goal out, I think it just took something away from the moment. It took something away from the celebrations, even from Anthony Gordon and Joe Linton. They couldn't just erupt because there was a chance, and I think there was a pretty high chance at one point, of that goal being ruled out. If you look across the reasons why it could have been ruled out, none of them stand up to scrutiny. None of them stand up to actually being challenged. So the first one, the ball went out. It most certainly did not. Incredible play from Willock to keep the ball in. Cross shot nearly goes off. He's got it all wrong, got the angles wrong, and it's running out of play. Exceptional speed and just desire. Keep the ball in play, dribble it slightly closer, and then put in a delicious cross. Did the ball go out of play? That's the first thing. There is a screenshot that is doing the rounds that is giving me a migraine. And I'm sure Arsenal fans of a certain intelligence will know, obviously the ball did not go out. Obviously the ball did not go out. And the screenshot that suggests it did is so infuriating because it didn't. In fact, let me demonstrate. I have here a gloriously beautiful Mitre football, right? As you can see, from the shape of it, this ball will be used in the FA Cup this year. As you can see, from the shape of it, it is impossible. If it's out here, if the line is here, it would mean that the ball is in play. Although it looked out at the bottom, because of the curvature of the ball, it is impossible for it to be out. So if you are sharing or believing or subscribing to this weird screenshot with the line there and the ball there and say it's out of play, of course it doesn't make sense. Because look, it looks out of play where my hand is there, but look at all of this chunk here that goes over the line. There's the line. Look at all of that part of the ball that goes over the line. Ludicrous. Absolutely ludicrous to suggest that the ball went out of play. It most certainly did not. Which then brings us on to the foul. Was it a foul? It, again, was not a foul. If you are genuinely looking to rule out a goal of that nature because of Joe Linton's foul on Gabriel, then there are going to be how many goals? Half a dozen ruled out every weekend. Gabriel was out-muscled. He was out-fought. Joe Linton wanted it more. Joe Linton showed more heart, more tenacity to win the ball, nod it down, and ultimately Anthony Gordon prodded it over the line. Do you know, because of all of these issues with it goal, we seem to be omitting something, a glaring issue, in fact, that needs to be discussed. People are talking about the foul. People are talking about, did the ball go out of play? People are talking about, was there an offside involved? Why is nobody talking about David Raya getting totally caught under the ball for the cross? David Raya is responsible for this goal. David Raya got it wrong. And I have no idea why he isn't in the headlines here. It was a rare mistake. He got it wrong. You know, up until recently, every single time there's been anything from David Raya, positive or negative, we've immediately discussed it. We've drilled into the bare bones of it, and the cameras have looked for Aaron Ramsdale, and everybody immediately has to ask themselves an internal question and say, what would Ramsdale have done? What would Ramsdale have done in that situation? There is no way that David Raya is not responsible for that goal. He got totally caught, stuck under the ball. His positioning was all wrong. He put his defender in a whole heap of trouble that Joe Linton capitalised on. And if we want to talk about Aaron Ramsdale, I don't think Ramsdale makes that mistake. But the goal, undoubtedly, although it was full of controversy, I thought it was beautiful. I do find the beauty in those sorts of things, in football. Look, don't get me wrong, of course I love an intricate move, 30 passes finished off with a tap-in, or even a thunderbolt of a strike. Of course I love it, but I also love the ugly stuff. I love a 50-50 challenge. I love a goalmouth scramble. I love a clearance off the line. I love a goal that is bundled in controversial fashion, and I truly love that. And for me, that goal, when people say you can hang it in the Louvre, that goal for me could certainly belong in the Louvre. I thought it was a brilliant goal, worthy of winning a game like that. But we have to start asking questions about Mikel Arteta. We were all so generous to Mikel Arteta last year when he was getting it right. And I think he's making mistakes. Last year, when you think about why it went so well for Mikel Arteta, you go, well, the signings worked. Gabriel Jesus hit the ground running. Zinchenko elevated not only the ability of the squad, but also the know-how and nous. How do you go and beat Manchester United at home, for example? Zinchenko knows. So it was an astute signing. Aaron Ramsdale, people laughed, people scoffed. Again, a brilliant signing. Made it into the team of the year and was wrongfully dropped. Saliba, giving him an extra year in France. Mikel Arteta got it right. All of the decisions, in fact, that Mikel Arteta made, Aubameyang, whatever, they all paid off and they all looked like they were correct. This year, not so much. And I think it's only just that we talk about them. Look, this isn't me suggesting that Mikel Arteta isn't a good manager. I think he's accomplished. I think he's done a great job at the club. But we're allowed to explore this, aren't we? Signing Jorginho, was that an astute move? In my opinion, no. Don't think he contributed enough. Don't think he did enough today. And I think he's costing Arsenal massively. Raya, we've already discussed. Kai Havertz. I really don't know where to sit with Kai Havertz. I don't know what more I can add to this debate. The Havertz conversation. I've gone around in circles about Kai Havertz. I have told any Arsenal fan that would ever listen that it was an atrocious signing. I've told any Arsenal fan that would ever listen to me that Kai Havertz is a woeful footballer. He has no spirit. He is not good enough. He cracks under pressure. He is flimsy. He is cowardly. And he quite simply isn't a good enough footballer. You know the kind of footballer that he gets compared to? It is so unjust because he isn't that guy. People go, he's got that languid style. It's Dimitar Berbatov-like. I'm like, are you insane? Did you ever see Dimitar Berbatov play football? Berbatov, yes, of course he was graceful, of course he was fluid, of course he had the ability to make it look like it all came so easy. And in posture, perhaps there is something similar. But that's where the comparison ends. In terms of what Dimitar Berbatov would do on a pitch, in terms of the end product, Berbatov and Kai Havertz are no better to be compared than me and Kai Havertz. Dimitar Berbatov is stratosphere away from Kai Havertz. And I think that Mikel Arteta is standing true to his belief that Kai Havertz is a good player. True to his belief that he can rediscover the form from Leverkusen or whatever the theory is. But I think he needs to admit that he got it wrong. He needs to admit that he's wasted the money. He needs to admit that it's not worked. And he needs to drop Kai Havertz from the first team because there is a ceiling as to how good you can be, how consistent you can be with Kai Havertz in the team. He isn't a Premier League footballer. And when I said this, when Arsenal made the signing, anybody that was listening suggested I was bitter, suggested that it was born out of a resentment because he was leaving Chelsea to go to a London rival. Now, of course, there is a truth in that. I don't wish him well. I don't want him to do well. And I don't like Kai Havertz. But the two things can coexist. I can frankly tell you that I don't like him and I don't wish him well. But I can also frankly tell you that he is not good enough for Arsenal. Arsenal have signed Kai Havertz and got worse. There is no way that Kai Havertz is an improvement on Granit Xhaka. That is a fact. If you are playing him in the midfield, there is no way that he is a better player than Granit Xhaka. And if you are playing him up front, there is no way that he is better than any of the three. Absolutely no way that he's a better player than Martinelli. Absolutely no way that he's a better player than Gabriel Jesus. Absolutely no way that he is a better player than Bukayo Saka. And I would also go so far as to say that he's nowhere near even the second string. Not as good a player as Leandro Trossard, for example, who wound me up today. His delivery. I didn't want Arsenal to win. And I'm watching that game going, can this geezer just beat the first man? The delivery, the consistent delivery in that series of corners that Arsenal had towards the end of the game. Shocking. Absolutely shocking. But what does this mean for Arsenal now going forward? Beat Manchester City, smash Sheffield United, but then drop points to both Chelsea and Newcastle. Take 1 point off Chelsea and Newcastle. It's not good enough. It's a slight concern. Now, I'm going to go out and say this straight away. I still believe that Arsenal are going to win the league. I still believe that it's true that they will win the league. But they were worryingly toothless today. They didn't really have a plan B. They were so predictable. And when plan A works, they're sensational. But when it doesn't, they seem to only have one dimension. Trossard up front for a must-win game. It's obviously not good enough. And Arsenal have now, in terms, I know it's their first defeat in the league this season, but they're losing, 3 out of 5 away games. So something needs to change. But look, the last thing that we're going to have to talk about on this video is the referee, who I think was all over the place. And do you know what I would like to do now? I got a lot of stick a while ago. Do you remember when Luis Diaz scored that goal at Tottenham? Perfectly legitimate goal that was wrongly taken away. And I said that what we should be doing is backing the calls for a replay. Everybody said a replay is never going to happen. A replay is a ridiculous idea. And of course that's true. I knew that it was never going to happen. I knew that it was a ridiculous idea. But my reason for backing it was for the furtherance of the game. Because if we're tribal about these issues, we'll never get anywhere. If Arsenal fans don't back Liverpool fans when they say something egregious has happened, we'll never get anywhere. If Chelsea fans don't back Arsenal fans when something egregious has happened, we'll never get anywhere. Like Bruno Guimaraes should have been sent off. There's no two ways about it. Bruno Guimaraes should have been sent off. Like Bruno Guimaraes seemed to dedicate a huge portion of that game to basically a fight. Off the back of the Havertz challenge, he seemed to just adopt a fighting mentality. And that elbow to the head of Jorginho was just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And the fact that Bruno Guimaraes saw 90 minutes is a travesty, really. And it makes a mockery of the game and the referee. They're my thoughts on the game. Let me know yours. Really interested to hear what you have to say. So please do me a favour. Comment below. Let me know your thoughts on the points that I have raised. If you're new around here, my name is Rory. I talk about football a lot and it would be my honour to welcome you to this community. Please give the video a like if you've enjoyed it. And I hope you have a wonderful night. In a bit.